house is another dude.
Strengthen honor. Strengthen honor. Strengthen honor.
Hello. My name is Untitled. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Why so serious?
I can crush you. Let go Wadham. At my signal. Unleash hell.
Do or do not. There is no try.
All right. Hey, everyone. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Wow.
Money Monday. Today, we're going to focus on a lot of different things. We're going to roll.
Not all money related.
Not all money related, but we are going to get into some topics about that. There's been a lot of news, a lot of controversy, as always, most of it wrapped around this COVID-19 situation. And, I'm kind of sad about the whole thing. Well, this has been kind of a interesting thing for me because, we've been living this since early, like January 1.
Yeah.
We've been all in this, all wrapped up. This has been, because we're risk consultants and because we're security consultants, this has been something we've been in a full-time study on since it popped up on the world, beginning whispers of it on the world radar.
Yep.
Maybe even December. And I tend to be a little bit more educated in this topic than some other topics that are covered on the news, outside of violence-related, active shooter, firearms, security industry stuff.
Yeah.
For example, economics and all those other things I'm not as well versed on. And so...
Can't be an expert in everything.
Right. So I'm pretty bummed that people who I typically normally agree with across the board, I don't really agree with them on this. I understand why they think the way they do, but I don't agree with them in the slightest. And, my good friends obviously don't care that I don't agree with them. But I know that other people are going to see this and, see my stance on this. And, that's enough. We can't have anybody who doesn't agree 100% with us, which is kind of sad.
Yes.
It's
the way of it these days, I would say.
Yeah. So, again, we talk about this just about every episode now and how, there's two camps. There's this wasn't a big deal and the government overreacted. And then this is the apocalypse and the world's going to end. Right. And I'm kind of in the middle on this. Right. And I understand why people are confused on this. And I really throw it on the science and the medical community, the blame on this, because they didn't say what they didn't know. And they assumed a lot of things and made a lot of assumptions based on previous, coronavirus strands, SARS, et cetera. Yeah. And they should have said, which is what we said as non-medical professionals. I mean, yes, I've got a medical background, but, I'm not a biochemist or, an infectious disease, professor at Harvard.
Right.
What they should have said was, we don't know anything about this yet. And we need to treat this a worst case scenario. And then lighten restrictions as we learn. And, and I'm so tired of people throwing the word frickin' science around.
Yes.
Science is this definitive thing. There are certain things in science that are definitive, and those are laws. Law of gravity, is an example of that. Everything else is a frickin' educated guess.
It's a theory.
Right? So... we don't even agree in the science community on whether eggs are good for you or not.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, think about the evolution of whether eggs are good for you with science. Right?
The study,
eggs are great. Eggs are great for you. Oh my God, eggs are bad for you. Oh no, the whites are good for you, but the yolks are bad for you. Oh wait, the yolks are great for you and the whites are kind of, eggs are bad for you again.
If you eat 6 a day, it's good, but if you eat 7, you're going to die.
Right. I mean, the same thing with coffee, the same thing with
Yeah.
wine.
Everything,
Science is basically become a religion
Yes.
for
Yeah.
some people. As a former atheist, science was my religion. I was the reasonable one and everyone else believed in fairy tales.
Totally.
When in fact, a lot of science, unfortunately, is turning up to be hypothetical fairy tales. They're not as extreme. They're educated guesses. Guesses.
Well, as with everything, political leanings and bias is influencing people who run the science these days. you know?
Right.
So they will come to the conclusions. They will ignore some data, stretch some data, report some data differently, and then but then we're supposed to take it as the word because it's science.
You know, well, and follow the science. And it's like, well, which scientists do we follow?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, for a vast majority of the history of our planet, most scientists said the Earth was flat.
Mm-hmm.
A small amount, would say that it was round.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, global warming or climate change is another one where we have a large consensus on one and a small disagreeing faction on the other. Which one's right?
Yeah.
Right?
But the people who disagree with it are labeled as science
Heretics.
deniers.
Yeah, you're a denier. You're a heretic. Burned at the stake.
Yeah.
And it's like,
How ignorant.
that is what science is for, and that's what colleges was meant for,
Yeah.
and university, to debate and put these to the tests so that we could feel confident in them. Where now any type of disagreement or non-consensus is shunned, when those are the ones we should dive into. Here is a new idea. We really need to look at this.
Yeah, I mean, so in the whole coronavirus world, I mean, I think a lot of people who are doubting the severity of this or don't believe the severity of this, they are saying that they questioned the science that the experts and the population latched onto in the beginning. So they're going to say right now that they agree with what you're saying, that science changes and you can't take everything as kind of gospel when it originally comes out. You have to be prepared to question it. And they're saying we are questioning it, yet we're still, as a country, operating on a lot of the original science or understanding of the science behind it.
Yeah, and that's the nature of this problem, right? Is that it's an evolving equation that is going to shape and shift and do a lot of different things. Unfortunately, they didn't come out and state that in the beginning. They made definitive statements like masks don't work.
Yeah.
And this doesn't have human-to-human transmission.
Yeah.
And they burned all their credibility.
Acting like science is static.
Acting like the science was static and that we've come to consensus and it beyond a reasonable doubt, or it is a fact that this is going to do that. And now no one believes anyone, and it's really fractured the community into two categories. And unfortunately, I think the wrong person's getting the blame for this. Does anyone in this world look at Donald Trump and say he's a freaking scientist?
Right. Nope.
But there are people we know and love who think he's the dummy in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard somebody say Fauci for president. Are you kidding me? He's the guy who's been the most wrong in everything.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people have linked him to deep state.
And
He's been in on all of this all along.
Yeah, and I don't even know. I've seen that. I've seen it with Bill Gates. I've heard all the stuff. I don't want to give that stuff airtime because, you can go down some rabbit holes there and there's no definitive answers. My job to you is try to filter all this garbage to what you should do for you or your family, those you care about, your company, your church, whatever. You have to look at the risk to benefit ratio. And unfortunately, in these two camps, you have what you always have when in an emergency, government overreach, right? So when you take a divided science community, when you take contradictory information, when you take people who have been wrong time and time again, and trust is eroded from people who distrust authority anyways. That's America. We're revolutionaries here. We don't like being told what to do. We don't like to do, we don't you know, we don't trust authority on a whole anyways, a vast majority, or a section of our population, which would be the conservative party movement.
Mm-hmm.
But you take that and then you compound it with massive government overreach. Like, why? Like, I'm glad the president stepped in and said that firearms are necessary,
Right.
are essential.
Essential versus non-essential. Yeah.
You know, it doesn't carry much weight in California or whatever, right? But, you know, when you're letting out prisoners,
And when dispensaries are being considered essential.
right, when dispensaries for drugs and alcohol and lottery tickets are essential, the hypocrisy and the stink of incompetence and all that just undermines the authority of the government and the goodwill of the people to follow the government.
Sure.
Because we are not in a monarchy, right? The people are the supreme power in the United States. And it's going to take some time for that to catch up if enough people get pissed off. But, you know, it's really led me into a really sad place for us right now, because really smart people who I think are, you know, who are right on so many other issues are torn because they're being manipulated based on a chronic distrust of the government, rightly so. But it's brought us to this impasse where I'm watching people, you know, hugging one another and doing all these things. And it's like, if that's two willing parties and they want to do that and it's all great, hey, good on you. You know, but if we can't know about eggs that have been around since the beginning of time and that we've been eating since we were cavemen all the way to where we are now,
Yeah.
you know, Adam and Eve probably had an omelet. All right. You
God
know,
made eggs.
yeah, exactly. And if we can't decide on that, how in the heck are we going to go know everything we're supposed to know about a virus that we didn't even know existed until, you know, we'll say November the earliest?
We don't. And I think it's that those people, they are assuming and relying on that this is not as fatal as it originally seemed, we think. And they're saying, you know, most people are surviving, so if I get it, that's fine. I can deal with it, but I'm probably not going to get it because most people still aren't. That's, you know, that's where they are right now, and they want to just get back to life.
Now, here's the thing, and there is some of that is legitimate, right? And if you live in New York City, odds are you've been exposed to this virus, and if you don't have it right now or whatever, chances are you've already had it. It worked its way through you. If you're in rural Maine, the odds of you having been exposed to this yet are very small.
Yes. Yep.
And, you know, what concerns me the most is it's something that happens over there in New York City until it happens in Bangor, Maine. Or, you know, pick a small town in Montana, and it just decimates that area.
Yeah.
Or maybe it won't because it's so infectious. Maybe only 3 people will get sick in the whole town, and they got 3 ventilators. You know, but I'm just.
So do you think it's going to be the or could be the infection rate versus hospital capability?
I think it's going to be the infection rate versus the severity rate, right? Which until we test everyone in America, we won't know. And right now, we don't know if you've had it before, if it even gives you immunity, right? With that to that point.
That's an assumption.
That's an
right?
assumption.
But I
and
think a lot of people
it's not been proven because
operating
other
on that.
people have retested positive. And the assumption was, well, it was a false negative.
They can't really explain it. Yeah.
They can't explain anything with this right now. Now, I want to say something from you know, the people who disagree with me and who I typically agree with. I understand they want to get back to work. I understand that the government has discredited themselves. I understand that their livelihoods and everything is going down and that it looks real bad. My thought with all of that is, and it's, you know, I don't know how to classify it, is this was always an all or nothing equation. And either we all do it and And it, like for example, if Trump just came on the radio and said, in 15 days, we're going to do a lockdown for 30 days. No one can go anywhere, no matter what. Spend the next 15 days doing this. We might already be out of this, right? The other example of this is just letting it do what it do, isolate whoever.
Right. I know that. I mean, there's a big thing is like now we've prevented essentially herd immunity again, with the assumption that there is immunity from this.
Yeah. Again, we don't know what we have for herd
and
immunity.
so does that? Are we setting ourselves up for a second spike because we prevented the large population from getting it?
Yeah, I don't know, but
But it also, I mean, if you look at California, which again, that's going to be New York, that's going to be Florida, that's going to be Massachusetts. There's going to be a heck of a lot of people already out there who have had it, who might have these antibodies now, who could potentially be immune. So we might actually have gotten a lot of that herd immunity already before we went into this quarantine status.
I think, I want to open the government. Or not the government. I want to open society up as soon as possible. And I want to open it in a way that is responsible. So my route was PPE with common sense social distancing where it applies.
Well, you see, there was an interview last week that we saw on Tucker with someone who owns multiple restaurants in the Florida area, and
they're already adapting.
They are taking this time. They're not sitting at home, woe is me, or whatever. They're taking this time. They have been gutting their restaurants and making new table, seating arrangements, more seating or space between seats, so they know that they're going to have a smaller seating capacity. But they're taking this time to have a solution so that when the doors can open, they're like, we have the safest environment possible for you guys to come enjoy this. And they've now explored, the takeout and the options that they as a restaurant hadn't previously. And I think that's great. I think that's how we were talking, that places are going to evolve and adapt to this new reality.
Right. I've heard a lot of people that I really respect citing the Constitution. Mm-hmm. All right. And the Constitution guarantees you the pursuit of happiness. Mm-hmm. It does not give you guaranteed happiness. It doesn't guarantee your business is going to stay relevant for infinity. So, I mean, if you worked at Polaroid, you're out of business.
Yeah.
The Constitution, you shouldn't cite the Constitution to save yourself there.
I know. I mean, so obviously freedom of religion is a big reason that they're using the Constitution, that churches are being told they're not allowed to gather.
Which I disagree with 100%. They should be allowed to gather in a safe manner.
And so just that, that our freedoms are being taken away from us on an individual level, and that we are being told we can't go places, we have to stay home, etc. I think that's largely where the Constitution is being invoked and saying, this is going against that document. But
I just don't understand the logic, man. Yeah. If you have a congregation of 1,000 people in 1,000 different homes watching you online, singing praise to God and doing all that, does it matter they're not all together?
So I just saw an article that there's on Cheekateague Island in Virginia, very small community, and they are suing the government, Virginia government, for being shut down because they held a service. They usually have several hundred people come, and they held a service around Easter. They had 16 people, all spaced 6 feet apart or more, but because they were 6 more than the 10 that were allowed per Virginia's mandate, the police came in, and they are now suing the government for that, for under like the whole freedom of religion, right to gather kind of thing. And that
again is like, there shouldn't be a limit on the number. It should be a limit. But
they're saying they don't have internet, and a lot of their people at home do not have internet, so that is not an option for them. They're claiming, which is why they moved ahead with this very small percentage of their congregation coming, but it was more than the mandated amount.
Well, the thing, in theory, I don't have any, like, setting a number on it over the number of 1, doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't really.
Right. They're like 10 is arbitrary. What's the deal with 6 more?
I don't.
But the argument being that any number in an enclosed space, with how we know that this, or belief that this virus travels in the air.
Yeah,
6
it
feet,
doesn't matter
whatever.
as long as you're doing it right. So if you had a big enough field, you could have 300 people there. They're spaced out.
It's an
They do what they
environment
want to
versus
do.
the group size.
And once you have masks, and once you can do all that, for the people that want to do it, again, I'm not going to force someone to wear a mask if they don't want to wear a mask, as long as people that are forced to be around them have the ability to wear a mask.
Yeah. So you're saying that, like,
Let's
that
say a
one-
church where they had 100 people, if 50 of them wanted to wear masks and the other 50 didn't, that's on them.
So it's not saying that you can only come and attend if you're wearing a mask.
No, I think that some people can't afford masks. If the church isn't going to provide them, they're not available, whatever. I think having
So
a mask.
like no shirts, no shoes, no service, like no mask, no service. You don't think it should stretch to that point?
It's a tough one. I mean, the risk professional in me says, yes, do it. But, the other thing is the cost of this. If someone gets kicked, if someone gets sick or they hurt someone else who was trying to do the right thing and they die, where's the accountability in that?
I'm just picturing in my mind, like the weapons-free zone stickers on the door and, like the no shirts, no service signs. Like, if there will be any place that for the safety of their employees, like if it's a retail kind of environment where people are going in and out, saying that you have to have a mask if you want to come in here. I wonder if there's going to be any places that try to do that.
Yeah. And the thing is what's so, again, more confusing and even sad, just adds to the dilemma is I don't think you get very much protection from a bandana or these improvised cloth masks.
Right.
I just don't, they're not ventilators. Not ventilators. They're not filters.
Yeah.
I can't think of the word, respirators. So, I think that hand sanitizer and social distancing is going to be the key. I've seen friends and I want to give them up and give them hugs, but I love them too much to give them a hug right now.
Yep.
And it just gets into this twisted logic that really hurts. But the thing that really pisses me off is when, people who I love and admire consider not doing any of these precautions their patriotic duty. Like somehow it's patriotic to not wear a mask and to try to get everyone sick.
And try to get everyone sick or just defy this government overreach?
That the effect is going to be get everyone sick.
But that's not the purpose of their saying no.
They're saying it's some noble thing to not wear a mask and it's some noble thing to disregard everything because, again, they found their experts, their experts that say that there is no proof that social distancing doesn't work. Well,
There's no proof that it doesn't.
There's no proof that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's kind of a common sense thing.
It certainly would make sense. Yeah.
And so I'm just sad about it. I wish I had an answer on it. My answer is that we stay in this until we have enough PPE and then we kind of go from there. And if people want to go back, let them go back.
And I think, you already see the name calling already of, the idiot who believes this or the idiot who doesn't believe it. And so I think, I hope that, I feel like people who are going to continue to wear masks, in the future, that the people who believe that this is all, a big made up scheme or that it really, that they are going to harass the people who are choosing to continue to wear masks or vice versa.
Well, the lawsuits are going to come out of this, man. Like if you're somebody who's going against general consensus and you want to go out on that limb and you run a mask-free service and people get sick and die because you did that or wherever, sporting venue, you name it, you're going to get sued.
Yeah, it's where, especially for those organizations that hold public gatherings, where is the line of responsibility on how responsible are they for the health of the people who come and choose to not protect themselves?
Yeah. The thing that I feel like the deniers are doing, and and again, I don't mean to be, I don't even like using that. The people who disagree with me, let's say that. I don't want to say deniers.
Yes, yeah.
Right, because I admire them and I respect them, and I know there's no easy decision here.
Well, and denying implies that we know that
Right.
that
And
we're right.
We admit
and
we don't know.
that. We don't
Like,
know that.
I am one of the people out there who's going to say, admit that we don't know anything for a fact yet. Right? And anybody who tells you they know something for a fact is full of garbage. They don't know anything. They may think. I don't bet on think. I don't jump out of somebody who, out of a plane with on a think.
Yeah. I think I packed your chute correctly.
Right. I don't do that. And that's the level of this. But it's worse. If I make a bad decision and I jump out of a plane because I think I did something right and I didn't, I die.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is if I'm jumping with my teammates and I didn't, and I was sloppy with how I packed my gear and I wipe out the whole SEAL team in the air because I'm colliding with them at terminal velocity. Now I'm not just killing me, I'm killing other people.
Mm-hmm. That's
negligence, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the part of this that's so scary, right? You think about, gun rights and gun control, right? This is literally like that, except you're potentially shooting at everybody.
Yeah, and we've talked too, as far as the employer and what businesses need to be prepared for. You're talking about people suing, and I would definitely think that this is going to fall under the general duty clause. That they have to provide a safe workplace from foreseeable risks, and I think at some point this switched over to being a foreseeable risk, and places that did not, grocery stores that have not provided PPE to their employees, and now we have grocery store people who are dying. Gosh, I mean, that seems like that's going to open up in court, and I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of suits around that.
Yeah, particularly when you think of these grocery stores.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyways, I hate to beat that dead horse. I respect those people on that side. I just wish I could sit down with each of them and say, what's the risk to benefit ratio?
Well, and I think we were listening to someone who I know that, we respect over the weekend, and they have a congregation of people who clearly will follow what is being said and what is being said very strongly. And for it to be said so definitively,
definitively on the internet to a wide audience everywhere,
in terms that they don't really leave much wiggle room for people who don't believe that or who are confused. They are now going to feel very influenced to go the route of, this is not a big deal. Don't wear masks. Don't worry about it. Constitution, and so I think that I agree. I think it is irresponsible.
I found the more I reflected on that, the more heartbreakingly irresponsible I found it.
Yeah.
What I would the
to not
best way to be
qualify it at all, being like, this is my opinion.
Yeah,
educate yourself.
I don't know. Right. Exactly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to step on you there.
Fine.
Go ahead.
No, I said it.
Yeah. To reinforce what you said there, coming out saying this is my opinion. You have to form your own opinion. Go do whatever. For me, this is what I will do. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to think, and I'm not going to call you stupid or anything else if you do something else, because that's peer pressure on there. And somebody can be very influential from a position of power throwing those types of words around. And, and this is from somebody who, I respect and who was an expert in their field in an extreme way, but their expertise is not infectious disease. Or emergency response or countermeasures. Yeah. And it's just crazy, and whether you want to believe it or not, is we're in a wartime situation right now. And people talk about the Constitution all the time, and it is a divinely inspired document, in my opinion. Ask how many soldiers get to do the, to follow the Constitution in a conflict. None. None, right? Freedom of speech, yeah, you tell your boss what you think about him. You free to disagree? No. You are a cog in the machine at that point. You have to do what you have to do, to survive, for the unit to survive and to win the war.
Yeah.
That's where we are now. And to act like the sacrifices we're being asked to make, and I'm not telling you to give up your freedoms. Like, stop being lazy. Innovate. Innovate. That church out there could, in theory, reach out to, I don't know, Verizon.
Yeah, the one in Chincoteague you're talking about.
Yeah, the one in Chincoteague could reach out to Verizon and say, hey, do you want some good PR? We can't meet as a church. Could you supply Wi-Fi?
Totally. Yes. Yeah.
Right. That's innovation. You got a God-given brain to think about that.
Yeah.
Instead, we're freaking lazy. We have to do it as we always did it. It's like we want our soldiers to go overseas and get blown up and shoot and lose their families, and their daughters turn into strippers and they have tortured lives with PTSD and everything else out there. But don't ask me not to go to a movie theater or a restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, for the love of God, man, can't we just see the small sacrifice here? If no matter what industry you're in, you can accommodate this if you want to do it smart. Now, if government's overreaching and denying you the basic principles to do that, then by all means, rise up and fight. Do not let them touch your Second Amendment. Do not let them infringe upon your family, your house, all those things.
Well, and you still have the freedom of religion. They're just saying you can't come together as a group right now because of this reason. It's not that you can't practice
Treat this as a biological weapon made by the Chinese. All right. Do you want to kill other Americans? That's what we have to throw the switch on. Once I heard
not saying that that's what it is.
Not saying that what it is, but treat it like that. Because you know what? We don't know that it's not. Do you think the U.S. government will get up there on TV and say, yes, the Chinese created it. It's a chem bio weapon unleashed upon us?
Yeah.
No, we'd all be dead. That'd be World War III.
Yeah.
They can't say that. But with this new blood clotting factor that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, which we can introduce that.
Yeah, let's get into that part. So go ahead, Lauren.
Yeah, I mean, so there's some more information coming out, and again, they are studies and reports and nothing conclusive, but there's multiple doctors coming out talking about that they are seeing this spike in numbers of strokes in this time frame around COVID, and significant increase in strokes in young populations where it would not be common. And they are seeing that as they are treating these stroke patients, a lot of them are COVID positive. And this one doctor shared this story that seems to have been kind of corroborated from other doctors, that he was trying to remove this brain clot from this healthy guy in his 40s. And as he was removing it, he could see other clots actively forming. And he's like, I have never, ever seen this before, that like in front of me, I'm watching this blood clot. And so he's just like this, and this patient was COVID positive, and they're seeing that a lot. And they believe, not reinforced yet by data. And there's really some of this stuff they'll never be able to prove. There has also at the same time been a spike in, we've mentioned this before, the number of bodies that the fire departments, et cetera, are having to pick up at homes now from people who expired in their houses. And they are putting this together, that this sudden, unexpected stroke potentially caused by these blood clots, which is is a symptom for some from coronavirus, is causing these people to kind of out of the blue die at home, with really no or minimal symptoms of coronavirus, but then they get these clots and they're just boom, done in their house. We talked about that young mother who died, and that could potentially be why some of these people go from being seemingly healthy to gone. And a lot of these bodies that they're collecting are not being autopsied, so they can't confirm that it was a stroke. But those two data points are seeming to make sense together. But just this clotting, I mean, that's why this is pretty scary. If it's killing, the young people, healthy people with no other health conditions, and that it's happening so quickly. These clots are forming so quickly.
Yeah. So again, here's just another point. Here's another complication. I've heard it's doing things to brain matter, and it's doing all other things. So, whether this is a chemical weapon created from China or accidentally created by China, or are created by the freaking Satan himself to wipe us out. That's who we have to treat this as. Right now, there is also the complication that this could also destroy our economy, which has its own problems. And I don't want to, we have to find that line to walk. And I'm not the one to figure that out. My thing would be the PPE route, and people who want to naturally do this, do that, provide hours with limited store. You know, I understand things are going to be more expensive, you know, by having to, you know, do all that, and restaurants limit that. I think that's the way it's going to be for a bit. And maybe going forward, you know, in this instant anywhere around the world travel that we do, this is the cost of it.
Yeah.
Right. This is the cost of it. So, you know, it's just, I think finding that line that we have to walk, we're all going to have to figure out where that line is ourselves when it comes to only with ourselves. But when you're talking about killing innocents, you know, that people that you may affect that you don't, that are not under your responsibility, that's another situation entirely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's going to be a hard and personal decision for people who've been taking this quarantine very seriously, like we have. You know,
I haven't hugged my son in 2 months now.
And, you know, differently than that, obviously that's, you know, that's a significant thing to not be able to, I mean, that in a split living, and I'm sure that a lot of people here have had to deal with that, and they've all come up with their own solutions on if you have a split home and you have a child who goes back and forth, how have you managed that? I mean, I think people are coming up with their own solutions, but especially when you know that one family of that equation, they have more exposure due to their jobs, and, you know, and what do you do? And when you're cutting out all other exposure, do you leave that avenue open still? You know, and we had to let the nanny go. And, you know, so when do we decide that it's safe to bring childcare back in the home? So, yeah, just all these personal factors that we're going to have to figure out. And I think people are going to, after the big picture says, okay, it's okay to start opening up individuals, I'm sure there's going to be some families who are like, I'm locking down until this thing is.
Yeah, I mean, some people will never go to a sports game again,
you know, vaccine or comes, whatever.
You know, I mean, there's a very small part of me, and this is going to sound terrible, that hopes professional sports go away. You know, there's nothing more useless than one millionaire playing another millionaire with nothing really at stake. I'd rather see everyone go back to church or invest in their families or go watch their kids play.
My guess is that there might be some middle ground in that they continue to play, but the on-site presence of spectators is going to be very reduced, if at all, and it's just going to turn into one of those everyone tunes in online or on their TV. But
yeah,
for a little while, until the memory fades of this all and people go back to being.
And then for another,
what they want to do.
But is it going to be another 100 years for another one of these, or is it going to be quicker now because of this instant, you know, travel society?
Well, we've had that for a little while now, though.
No, I know, but you know, we did have H1N1, and it just wasn't tough enough.
And it wasn't handled the same way.
Well, it wasn't handled the same way, and it just wasn't as contagious as this or anywhere near this. So, you know, we had Ebola, and we locked that down. It just kills too quick, and it's so obvious. It's got such a low, fast incubation
so we did
time.
have more deaths from those than we currently have right now, but it was easier to get a handle.
No, we've passed H1N1, I believe, and we've passed everything right now.
One had 12 or so thousand.
We're up to 200,000 dead.
I'm talking in the States.
In the States, let's pull it up.
But while he's looking for that, there was another in looking at kind of new science and new studies, new information, because, you know, there's new symptoms and things that are coming out. One interesting thing that's came out of France, I believe, and again, this is kind of an observational report, not anything that is being backed right now by studies, but they are finding that smokers may be at less risk of getting this because I was just looking it up, and they are thinking that nicotine might prevent the virus from attaching to the cells.
Wow.
But if a smoker gets it, then they are at much higher risk of serious symptoms or death because of their lung capacity being compromised. But it's just kind of an interesting, unexpected twist there. If that's accurate, they were seeing that the proportion of smokers who are actually getting this was less than they would have expected.
Again, totally everything's upside down.
Don't go start smoking to prevent getting sick from coronavirus.
So right now, the numbers that we have are...
yeah, that was... Yes, I definitely did misspeak there.
All right, so here we got 3 million cases in the world, almost 900,000 recovered, 893,196 recovered, and then 209,001 deaths. And if you look here, critical incidents continuing to drop, and the mortality rate is finally going down.
Also going down. That's good. Yeah.
Because that was 21%.
Yep.
This was 4%. So, so these are starting to do what we had hoped they would do. The mortality rate would drop. That would drop. And then if you come down here and you look at total deaths in the world, the U.S. leads the world because China lied and Iran can't count. Basically has 56,009. So you remember they said the lowest count was going to be 60 now, right? And everyone was like, 60, that's not a big deal. We're already there.
Yeah.
We're 4,000 away from it, and we just lost another 596 overnight. Right, so we're going to be over 60K.
Yeah.
You know, and...
which now they're just going to say, well, it's way better than 200,000 or whatever they said.
Right. Just, you know, again, with our story where Tucker Carlson misrepresented the numbers and made some assumptions that are not known, you know. Italy's at 26,000, Spain's at 23,000. We're at almost 1 million people infected right now, which is going to be way more than that. We know the more people we test, the more people come up positive. And, it's just terrible. So if you go in new deaths, we're still number 1. Italy's number 2. Spain's we've been the top 3 the whole way. Belgium at 113. And then who's the ones? Is it Sweden or no? Is it
Denmark, right? That Denmark. They were holding up as Switzerland in Denmark?
No, I say Denmark. So Denmark, which is probably has the population
5 deaths.
Where are they?
Right above Diamond Princess.
Okay. So Denmark has had, I don't know who they're testing, probably not many. They've got 8,696 cases, another 123 overnight, 427 deaths, and 5 new deaths overnight. When you actually look at their rate of death infection, it's pretty high. So if you look at that, you've got Spain leads Italy, France, all these down. The USA is at 169, and then
Denmark's there.
Denmark is not too far behind us, man. So again, these small inconsequential countries that don't have the complexity of the United States, don't have the issues of the United States. I don't think they're apples to apples comparisons. Again, I'm not a scientist. I don't know that, but I can sit there and know that, hey, us with all of our diversity and all of our challenges and everything else that we have and the mobility around here versus Denmark. And just not even close, man.
I think one story that has stood out to both of us that is a tragic, I wouldn't even call it a side effect, but consequence of all of this is the meat industry.
Oh, yeah.
It's scary in that, we're talking about serious meat shortages. And which,
yeah, so here's where we get into
where's
Money
that
Monday.
panic going to, before it was the toilet paper, and now it's going to be everyone freaking out that they're not going to be able to get their meat, which is a more legitimate potential shortage than the toilet paper ever was going to be. And so what we have going on is all of these major plants, Tyson, Smithfield, out in Dakota or South Dakota, North Dakota, kind of where those plants are operating, they have shut down because a huge percentage of their workers were getting sick. They were describing, that there's basically communities that have popped up around the plant, and like essentially everyone in that town works or community works at these plants, and so they carpool. They are always around each other, and they were left open as an essential business, obviously.
Yep.
And the virus got into the community, intermingled, came to the plant, spread amongst all the workers even more there. The plants didn't have the proper PPE to begin with because there was a shortage. And so now they didn't have the right number of workers to be able to operate the plant. So they had to shut the plant down. And so now farmers who are, raising these animals up, and they have to be slaughtered at a specific age. That's kind of how the system works. They have to do something with all of the animals that have reached the stage of that they would normally be processed. And they have all of their other younger animals that are growing up, and because that just doesn't stop. And so now the farmers are having to kill off mass numbers of their animals, and just, they were talking about these, mass graves. And so, they're just being wasted because where they would be sent to slaughter and butchered, those places aren't open anymore. And so now, farmers aren't being paid because no one's buying their livestock. And so now they're struggling to feed the other animals that they have. And so it's just this big thing. And it's a big problem. South Dakota's governor was on the news this morning, and they said that they've been working very closely with the government and with these plants to come up with a plan. And she's hopeful that shortly, which she described shortly as being a few days, maybe a week, they're think that they have something in place that they can get at least some of these plants back up and operational, which would be great. I've seen some people putting out this, articles about this shortage and these animals having to be killed with no one, being able to consume them and just wasted, saying, oh, it's, it's such a shame because, how many people could have used that? Why don't they, donate the meat? And it's like, well, there's no one there to process it. That's the point.
Right. You just want a cow
and then
showing
they're
up
like,
on
and they're
a
like,
forklift.
this is the result of all of this BS coronavirus stuff. And it's like, no, actually, those plants are shut down because people got sick, not but because they were told not to go to work to avoid getting sick.
Right.
So that logic,
because you can cook your meat, and again, you're right. It's uneducated people not connecting the right dots. Right, saying that, oh, this is the coronavirus shutting them down. No, people get sick and they can't go to work.
Yeah, it's because of the coronavirus infections that things aren't operational. So, just another. And it's going to be a big issue.
So, it's past time that you have a freezer. If you haven't gotten a freezer yet, I don't know how long meat's going to be on the shelves for you.
I'm sure that people are going to have a hard time finding freezers now too.
Yeah. So, getting a freezer. Buying, if you can't just buy a freezer, buying a second fridge, whatever it takes, and storing. We have a bunch of dehydrated meat that we got from for our emergency supplies.
And be thoughtful with your meat. Don't waste anything. Certainly, we are guilty of, oops, we forgot about that, that we bought a week ago. Now it's bad and you forgot to freeze it. So, treat it like it's precious right now, and make meals that will stretch it so that you're not going through so much. But take note and buy as much as you can when you are able to go to the store right now.
Yeah, and I bought things off season, so I've been buying a lot of frozen turkey breasts and frozen turkeys and stuff like that because it's not Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So, I'm taking what's there and I'm thinking long term.
And I know they're talking, so they did mention, they were mentioning pork, beef, and chicken this morning. And previously they had been talking largely about pork. And then some of the chicken. So I think some of the plants are still working. So there will probably be, I don't know if there's going to be some kinds of meat from some areas of the country that are still able to.
There's an interesting conversation here to have, and I know that we typically have a heavy immigrant population in those meat processing plants.
Yeah.
A company called us in to do a security site assessment for them, or asked us if we wanted, we were interviewing for a job with them. And we started asking questions, and they had stabbings on the floor of gangs and people fleeing across the border. I mean, it's a nightmare. It's like prisoners working, literally convicted prisoners who are on work release, working in your slaughterhouse, doing all that stuff. It's a miserable job, and maybe it's time we pay more for food for that.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's time we pay these people money. So if you're doing a job that absolutely is miserable, that we're getting a higher quality caliber person in on that job, and they're vital, just like our cashiers at our grocery stores now.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, having a higher caliber person on the job wouldn't have prevented that person from getting sick either.
No, but you never know if they had PPE, or maybe they would have. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying that this really highlights who, like Tom Brady is not vital to our
really
world.
Highlights
the guy
what
who
matters
guts
to
your
humans.
cow
Yeah.
and puts hamburger on your table, that is the guy who matters.
Yes. Yep.
So maybe we shouldn't be paying an athlete $20 or $30 million a year for no value at all of what they do. And maybe we should start paying people who do matter.
Yeah, who feed our country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe then we would get Americans picking apples.
I can't imagine that job.
You know? And you talking about the slaughterhouse job or picking apples?
Slaughterhouse job.
Yeah. It's got to be awful. It's got to be tough.
Yeah.
Right? I just imagine the sights, the sounds, the smells, all that stuff. And that should be a high-paying job because it sucks. You know, no one's like fired up to go to work.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, if I'm going to pay somebody $100K a year, I want it to be that person.
Totally.
Not the professor teaching, I don't know, women's studies
so they get probably minimum wage too.
Yeah. I'd rather pay the women's study professor $30K a year for their useless degree that does nothing, or the Greek art interpretation professor a lot less, and pay the people who actually freaking feed us more.
Yeah, I'm into that.
So
It's sad story, and so just keep tabs on that, because that's something that has the potential to impact us, impact you for a while now, and you're going to want to know and be able to prepare and plan appropriately if we're all becoming vegetarians.
Yep. So to continue to get back to our Money Mondays, the IRS website is updated, and they finally found us.
Yeah, so they did some major overhauls. I saw a report on this morning, and they were like, go check it again, because a lot of people were getting that status not available error message.
Yeah.
And went and checked it immediately, and for both of us, it said that we have checks that are being mailed on May 1st, which it's still a little weird, because we've both filed our 2018 taxes with direct deposit information. That hasn't changed. So I don't know why it's saying that we're being mailed checks. I think I've seen some people saying that they can go in retroactively and enter their bank account information. I'm scared to confuse the system a little bit and be like, and if we've already have a date set for the check to mail out, I'm not sure if I should like put in
whatever, just get it here, and hopefully it gets here before we leave.
Yeah. So, but that's good. So if you haven't looked, and if you haven't gotten it and you got that error message before, go check it out. And hopefully yours is also updated, at least so they're getting their act together a little bit.
Yep. The other thing, update on our move is happening. Our pods are here, and we are filling them. Mm-hmm. And it looks like we might have found a house to rent or a house to buy. We've got our eye on two different things. One's a rent and one's a buy in the Bangor, Maine area. So Bangor, we're coming for you. We're coming for you. I'm so excited to go to Calvary Chapel, Bangor. And Ken still hasn't returned my email. So if you ever watch this, Ken, you still haven't returned my email. We're going over a week plus now, I think.
Oh, no.
That's cool.
If you have no idea what Jason's talking about, go listen to the last one, and you will be introduced to his new best friend.
This guy who, is a pastor who preaches, I've been looking for him my entire life. I can't wait to get there and learn from him. He's great. Yeah. So, so we're looking at Bangor, and we're really pumped and excited. And, I see a snowmobile in my future.
Oh, I see cold. I see a lot of cold in my future.
Poor Oda Pup. I watched him shiver on the porch today, and it's like in the 50s.
Yeah.
So if he's shivering on the porch, Poor guy.
Oh, he's screwed.
He's going to be sitting by the fire during the winter. And
Yeah, this is the dog that was like wrapped around the heater when we lost the the heat that one time, and he was just like couldn't find the puppy. Look in front of the heater box.
Yeah, look in front of the heater box. There he was. Because he's ripped and he's got no fat. He's not a prepper. He's not a prepper.
Not efficient at all.
You know, me and Valkyrie, we've got insulation to keep us warm for those Maine winters.
Mm-hmm. Valkyrie's going to be excited.
You and Odapup are going to be frozen with your 6-pack.
Yeah, right.
Pretty darn close.
But we'll be in Virginia. You can find us snowbirds in Virginia in March and April.
Oh, my God. We're going to have to schedule a yearly trip down here in March and April. I
think there's an RV in our future, and I think we are bailing on the state of Maine come spring.
Yeah, I just don't want the cold, mud, wet Maine. Like, I'm
Well,
cool
snowy
with
and
the snow.
worthwhile.
Yeah, if it's snowing, I'm cool. I can ski. I can do stuff. I skate.
And then it's like, okay, already.
And then it gets
Bye.
dirty snow. And nothing's worse than dirty snow.
And then you start to see the ground again. You're like, yes, it's spring. And then you have a blizzard. Again. Again. Ay.
Yeah, they had a hardcore snow April 10th. That was almost a deal breaker for Lauren. Right?
Not good. We already burned the ships, thank God, because that might have done it. That might have broke me. No more. No more. Good.
So we're really hoping that our rental comes through and that, or, you know, the best part about this for you guys, you know, have been on this 30-day journey with me. And, you know, the giving my control back to God to take over, where I just do my part and then what it's meant to happen is going to happen.
I'm still struggling to know what is our part. Like,
you go there and you knock on your options, and the one that works out is the one that was supposed to work out. So we're going to put a reasonable offer in on a house, and we're going to put we're negotiating with this rental company.
It's like because there's this rental, and if that comes through, does that mean we're supposed to take the rental and not look to buy right now?
I would say, yeah. And the great thing is because it makes great math sense for us. Yes. $1,600 a month. We just cut our monthly, rent by $900. Mm-hmm. Not to mention, all the utilities and all the stuff we have to pay to keep this place running.
I'm excited to clean a smaller house.
The things Laura gets excited about.
To clean this house, which is why most of the time it doesn't get clean.
So what you're hearing right now is first world problems. Lauren is upset with having to clean a big house.
Oh, totally first world problems. I'm just saying, I'm trying to find the upside of downsizing we love this house. My upside is it's going to be a lot easier to clean.
Less floors to clean.
A lot easier to clean. That might actually get done, that's a good thing, right?
Yeah. Well, the fact that we're also decluttering and we're culling my 47 years of prepping life.
Yeah. Yeah. I know now how dirty my floors are because bees crawling around on them all the time. It's highly embarrassing. I'm glad that no one's here to see it. Yeah.
I would say if I was you, I would take white onesies out of the equation.
She never wears white. Never. I go as dark as possible.
I would go with dark gray.
We're right there. I beat you to it.
Dark gray.
Mama, don't play. I know all the secrets.
Yeah. So again, not wanting to sell this house, not wanting to leave this place, but knowing that it's the right thing to do. And these are the sacrifices we made. Why? Because we walk the walk. We don't just talk the talk. Security and risk and living this lifestyle and being prepared. This is a total equation on that.
But at the same time, it's being reinforced by God that this is the right thing to do.
Totally.
The feelings that you're having and the things that are opening up there. And
zero anxiety.
And it's like, okay, we are on the right path.
Yeah. It's like every time something happens, now it's affirming. Mm-hmm. And then the issues, everything that's happening here outside of like last night, we had been saying goodbye to this place every night. So we have been having a fire and looking at the stars and enjoying the backyard. Well, before it becomes Virginia oven, summer, you know, and it's just been great. But, you know, having the other struggles, you know, dogs barking, whatever from the neighbors. And it's like, you know what? I love this place, but I'm going to be happy that it's gone in the end.
But if you want to buy it, it's fantastic.
Now it is my favorite house. I mean, you got mountain views, you got a...
Talk about first world problems, the stuff that, you know,
Yeah.
we're like, it's okay, we'll leave this behind. Minimal.
Yeah.
Minimal.
Yeah. I mean, I hope the other garage or wherever we go is going to be as good of a gym as we have here. Although the house we're looking at has one hell of a long recovery run. It's like a 200-yard recovery run.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Cool house.
All right, everyone. I think that's going to wrap this up for us today. So, you know, look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Tactical Tuesday. Remember, Tuesdays and Thursdays are the days we talk about all the stuff, you know, combatives, firearms, improvised weapons, weapons clearing tactics, you know, situational awareness and all those factors. So we'll see you tomorrow for Tactical Tuesdays.
And we are off to go pack.
Yep.
And pack and pack
So-
and clean and clean and clean. Pack and pack and clean.
Yeah, and pack.
No
Oh,
sleep.
and move. Guess who gets stuck with the lifting part?
Well, the heavier end.
So God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. May He give our leaders the wisdom to get us through this time, and may He protect each and every one of us. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
See you
Try and chill.
tomorrow.
Out. Remember to like and comment below this video and subscribe to my channel for more great videos on coronavirus updates and how to protect yourself and your loved ones.